Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. The Giants dropped the series versus the Snakes, but don't get swept because nobody beats the 2026 Giants 9 straight times. We'll talk about that, plus easing our way into more trade topics as the deadline approaches this month, stories around the league, and much more. Before we get started, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's is now the official sleep partner of the San Francisco Giants. You can save up to $1,200 on cooling mattresses at the Mancini's Sleep World 4th of July sale. Their cooling mattresses help regulate temperature, preventing overheating, and keeping you comfortable until morning. Stop by or visit online to see what's currently available. Okay, Alex, Giants dropped the series, but don't get swept, which oddly feels like I don't know, like a cause for celebration with how they've played against this Diamondbacks team this year and some of the Diamondbacks pitchers in general over the past few years. I mean, is it half a celebration in your household?
I was in studio for these 3 games with the great Ron Lotus, and I was literally walking around before the game yesterday, and people are like, "Are they going to get one? Are they going to get one?" And I'm like, "Don't worry, it's podcast day. Like they always do this. They lose the first 2. It's horrible. You think the entire thing's going to be negative, and then they win on podcast day. So they're
and usually they give us like a splashy win on podcast day, and it seemed like they were trending towards that. And then the 8th inning happened.
They were turning towards a splashy loss, but
yes,
Killian,
yes.
Killian, I think he has a couple of very splashy blown saves, but in general, he looks like part of the solution to the bullpen. Probably not in the 9th inning, but
yeah,
thought he did a nice job yesterday. But yeah, it was as you said, nobody beats the San Francisco Giants 9 times. Literally nobody has done that. This is tied for the front 8 0-8 to start a year. And you have to go back to, I think it was 1977, and that is so long ago. That's before you and I, but also Mike Krukow was pitching for the Chicago Cubs.
Wow.
He was part of that. They lost 8 straight to the Cubs to start the year. So it's not really not great. And it's like, you look at that Diamondbacks team and you're like, there's top of their lineup's really dangerous. But then you kind of see who's coming out of the bullpen, and they've put their bullpen together in a decent way, but not like overpowering in any way. That's not the type of team you should lose 8 straight to.
Yeah. A listener sent me this stat. I'm sure you've seen it, but the Diamondbacks and Giants are 35 and 42 against the rest of the teams in the league.
Yeah.
They have the same record. So this head-to-head series is what has made the Diamondbacks at 500 on the year and the Giants well below 500.
They are Giants merchants.
Yeah.
So
we've been there. We've definitely preyed upon the weak as the Giants when we've had to. It doesn't seem like this is the year they're able to do it.
I mean, the sneaky part about 2021 was the Giants basically never lost to the Diamondbacks and Rockies. So they won the division they won the division a lot of ways, but that was one of them, was just beating the crap out of those 2 teams.
Yeah.
Arizona hanging around the wild card race. I think they're like 3 back purely because they have dominated the San Francisco Giants. And I wouldn't even say that's like the reason the Giants are not in the wild card race, because there's 8,000 reasons. But it is one where you look at it and go like, man, if you even were like 3-6, you're in a slightly different situation. But this is a team that I think we talked about this on the last podcast. The schedule opens up, but you don't even look at that anymore because they don't seem to care when the schedule opens up.
Exactly. I mean, even the Rockies, they have a losing record against. They're heading to Denver, but
yeah,
those are the games you have to win to compete. And competing is far beyond the fold of what I'm caring about at this point, record-wise. But let's talk Giants at Diamondbacks. A couple of narratives coming out of this game. I think one of the first ones, for obvious reasons, with the spotlight on the coaching, spotlight on Tony, is Tyler Mahle's comments after his game, kind of about the miscommunications for his load management, his pitch count.
Yeah, I mean, he basically was saying he would have maybe pitched Marte differently if if he knew he had a strict pitch count of 85. kind of a weird one. It looks really bad right away. The next day, everyone tries to clarify it. That's the 2026 San Francisco Giants, I think, in a nutshell. It looks bad in the moment. He probably should have realized. I was hosting the pregame show and I said he probably has 85 to 90 pitches, just doing the math off the previous one. So he probably should have realized where he was. At the same time, I do think you kind of throw this on the pile of like, look, there's been a couple smoking guns, like the Devers moment. I never really cared about Chapman Schmidt, but like there's been a couple very public moments, but I think we've also had a ton of just little ones, like the Logan Webb coming out after the 8th inning and being told he was done, and then being asked, "Do you want to go back out there?" And this is an example of a guy clearly ticked off because he publicly, like, Tyler's not very, very cut and dry post games with him. Like, I don't even quote him that often. He's not a guy who says things like this. So, some frustration there. We saw early on with Patrick Daly some real communication issues there, and who knows whose fault that was. I mean, Patrick gets traded, but you kind of throw these into the pile of like, hey, this is like the 6th or 7th time where you've raised your eyebrow at something that's been said or something that's been done, and I think that's one of the things they have to. They're probably going to have a long off season. They're going to have a long off season, not just because their season's going to end on September 28th or whatever, but likely a lockout and likely no spring training on February 14th. I think one of the many things they really need to evaluate is kind of go through some of these, and it doesn't seem like this is not a big deal, but it doesn't seem like Tony's been too bothered by any of these, but I do think they need to go through some of these and be like, hey, this was a pretty big number of times where something weird happened and you kind of go, that guy was like publicly annoyed about something.
Yeah.
And what's the fix here?
The publicly annoyed part, I think, is what stands out to me the most, because obviously the players know when they make a comment like that, it's going to turn into a bit of a thing. So the fact that they are irked enough to let it become a thing, this one kind of baffles me, because maybe it's not the biggest deal in the world, but also during the 90 minutes Tyler Molly's in that game, what is he getting chatted with by the coaches when the team's hitting? Like, is this not a full game long conversation? Hey, you're at X number of pitches. You feel like you got 20 more in you. Hey, like, it seems so basic and fundamental.
I mean, this was one that, again, is like not that big a deal, but it does seem like one that could have been solved with just a mound meeting before the Marte at bat and going like, hey, this is probably it for you. You want to go after this guy, or you want to leave it to Sam Henches and turn Perdomo around? And again, like, pretty clearly ticked the guy off because he's not someone who says things like this and was annoyed. So just kind of put it in the back file and something that they probably, as they evaluate this entire season, there's very clearly been some communication issues getting to the players. And I say this not only because this has come out, but because I've heard this, like, that I think there's a general communication issue, which they're not talented enough to overcome little things like that. So one of the many things I think they need to revisit in the offseason is what's kind of the chain of command here and what's with the communication issues. And I've heard of some pretty glaring ones behind the scenes. So some things they need to work on.
Yeah, as we continue a little tour of the lowlights from Arizona, Barracoto. It's hard to knock Barracoto too much, considering he's been just an offensive weapon since joining this team. But embarrassing base running mistake taken off from first. And so for clarification, Alex, I talked to you about this. My internet has been out at my house for 4 days now. So I had to listen to this whole series on a transistor radio. It wasn't the best experience for me.
No. What are you, like, reading books?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Sitting on the couch, reading books, listening to the radio. I had no internet, not even on my phone, for 4 days. I am losing my mind. What was that?
You have a campfire going back there? Like,
basically like candles lit in the house. But so some of these I haven't even really seen highlights of. I listened to them happen live and then used my imagination to build what it looked like.
Well, I'll build this one for you. It's inexplicable, and try to figure out how a guy on first gets thrown out trying to go to second when there's somebody on second. And it was like a check. Yeah, it's inexplicable, but I'm just blown away. But I thought you'd be the one person who would kind of be like, you know what, internet went out. This is great. I'm gonna play Dungeons and Dragons, and
I wish I could, but my brain chemistry has been warped by social media, and all of my friends have children and life commitments.
yeah.
So I'm just fine. Oh, and my wife's in Europe, so I'm literally just alone.
You were ready to just doom scroll for 4 days.
Honestly, I thought about coming to the studio to just watch the game with you guys.
You could have come on post game. We would have appreciated. I felt, poor Ron Wotus, he does a great job, but I was like, you have a lot of show to fill because we're trying to figure out what to talk about. Barracuda, I'm not gonna hammer the guy. I think one, he's been a bright spot recently. Two, obviously, what's going on in Venezuela is he's probably not sleeping very much these days.
Mm-hmm.
I will again put this in the pile of we've seen this happen like a half dozen times now, and I don't even. I'll put Barracuda to the side. I'll just say we've seen it from Willie. We've seen it, I think Jonah Cox had a moment like this. I don't, my brain doesn't work because it's early in the morning and I have a 2-year-old who wakes me up. But I know every listener can probably in their mind pull up 5 or 6 moments this year where they go like, what was that base running? So, I mean, their third base coach got fired for some of the issues here. But again, put it to the side, San Francisco Giants, and revisit in the offseason and go, why did we have so many runners get thrown out? Like, not even like trying to steal, just get thrown out, trying to take third, or thrown out standing between first and second, or get backpicked, or what was that one game? Was it Willie or Chapman? Somebody got backpicked at second base.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, there's been a lot of these, and
I'm ready to set up like a gaff bingo board. When are they going to get the outfielder catches a pop-up and throws it to a fan with one out? When are they going to get, there's all kinds of classics they have not hit yet that seem like they're due. When are they going to get caught by the hidden ball trick?
Oh my God. People ask us where rock bottom is. Hidden ball trick would be rock bottom. I'll say about this, like, you were off the internet, so you missed some of this discourse, but there was
that's the best part.
There was some Tony discourse going around earlier in the week on Giants Twitter. I think in general, he's done a fine job. I also think there are some people, and I see them on my timeline, and I hear them at times, and he's not blameless. They are a very bad team, and they play very bad baseball. And I'm not saying anyone's getting fired. I'm not saying anyone should. I don't think so. I think he's learning on the fly. But there are people who don't want to put any blame on the manager in this situation. And this team that continues to play baseball this way, like, some of that also goes to the manager and coaching staff.
Yeah.
And, just accountability, just what are they working on before games? Are they fully prepared for some of these moments? Does the young guy, is he being told, like, you should know he's a lot's going on in his life? Like, is he constantly being reminded of the count, being reminded of where he's going, being reminded of what he's doing on every pitch? So these things do. I'm curious to see. We've talked so much about the trade deadline and so much about kind of the immediate big picture things. I'm curious to see after the season ends where Buster and Zach come down on not necessarily Tony, but on this staff. Because to your point, like, you could do a blooper reel, you could do a bingo game of mistakes they've made. And, even to like the 8th inning yesterday, I know you probably weren't watching, was a complete disaster.
The 8th inning was just a who's who of Giants killers these days.
Yeah. But in terms of
Kel Marte and Ryan Walker, I can't think of 3 big ones.
Yeah. But like, the ball is on the ground the entire inning. And it's just, it was tough to watch. And I do think those things, you cannot, Buster didn't give him a bullpen, but I do think people have to be fair about this and say, if anybody else was managing this team, there would be constant calls for, people on the internet would be calling for firing in. I am not. I'm just saying.
I see those calls happening.
I just think there's some people who don't want
wise that you can't do another.
I think we have to be fair about this. Has been a bad look for everybody involved, and Buster has taken most of the heat recently. Tony's second half, like this, similar to last year, like, and this was ultimately what cost Bob, was Buster was like, hey, can you just play cleaner baseball in the
Yeah.
second half? I think that's one of my things. The final 3 months, like, hey, some of these things need to stop. And whether that is, benching guys or getting after them or doing extra pregame work, or, some of this really bad baseball just needs to stop, because that's like, stop the bleeding. And then we'll, in the offseason, they can address some of the real issues here roster wise. But the quality of play, I think, has been one of the things that's been most disappointing to me. Is
Yeah.
just, it's kind of incredible how many mistakes they make for a team that has a new manager, because of how many mistakes they made in the second half last year. Like, they didn't hold the bullpen against Bob in the second half last year because they traded everybody and Randy got hurt and they knew it. It was because they continued to play this kind of just bad brand of baseball. And
Yeah.
I think that's what you didn't see it because your internet was out. But I think everyone who watched this Diamondback series, like, just a lot of bad baseball. And it's like, just clean some of that up. And that does go on the coaches, I think, to a large extent.
Yeah. It seems like since we started doing this podcast, maybe 2021 accepting, but even then, it has been an ongoing narrative of like, hey, is this going to be the year the Giants tighten it up and stop making the little mistakes? How hard can it be to dial in, focus up, clean up the game? Because making those mistakes obviously causes you to lose games, but it also is just such an easy talking piece to rag on the team, and just shift focus to that. And obviously it's worth focusing on, but tighten that up. They can obviously, that is one of the things the coaching staff should be able to control. And we've gone through so many coaches, so many managers over the years we've been doing this, and they still have not been able to figure that out. One of my main concerns with Tony during the hiring, and I think we talked about this on the podcast, was his lack of experience. So when they surrounded him with guys like Ron Washington, it seemed like that would be able to mitigate it. Guys who have been in this game for as long as this game's been played, it feels like. But apparently that wasn't enough.
No, and it's something I really think they need to figure out. I mean, you could go through and we've done this some series where I do my things Alex hates, just watching the games, and you go, that was just bad baseball. But just off the top of my head, I think about the 8th inning yesterday and some of the base running, but also 2 guys stole on Landon Roop with running leads. And that's just a small thing, but it's part of this. So, those are things that, again, first year for Tony, he'll have a chance to step back after the end of the year and evaluate everything and look at how everything went. But I do hope they, like, if you ask me what's the biggest difference between the Diamondbacks and Giants currently, and why is one of them beating the crap out of the other one, obviously Marte, like, being otherworldly in these 9 games has helped them quite a bit. But one thing that stands out to me is they don't, and this has been them for years, they don't make those mistakes.
Yeah.
Like, they're not throwing the ball around as often. They run the base as well. They've generally over the years played good defense. So yeah, that's an area where you look around and see some of these teams and you go, you tighten some of those things up, you pick up 4 or 5 extra wins over the course of the year. Like, it really changes the perception of who you are and where you are in the standings.
Yeah. You mentioned Landon Roop, so that's a good a time as any to talk Landon Roop getting absolutely shelled on Tuesday, not making it 3 innings. He doesn't seem like, I don't know, a long-term viable starting option the way he's been pitching lately. I don't know what it is. But yeah, what do we think of the future of Landon Roop on this team? Obviously, as they start to think about trading some of the older veteran pitchers, he's not going anywhere.
I think he'll be okay. I mean, we've seen good Landon for a long time. He was really spraying the ball the other day, and I do think there's an element of I think a lot's being thrown at some of these guys, the young guys, because look, they took their Gold Glove winning catcher away from them, which not only I know for a fact Patrick did some things to try to just, Landon has a tendency to all of a sudden just walk 3 guys really quickly. Yeah. And I know there were things that Patrick did to try to mitigate some of that. So it seems like he's more affected than maybe anybody by by losing a catcher earlier in the year that knew him well. I still think he'll be fine long term, but I do think part of this final 3 months is two guys in particular, him and Trevor McDonald, who maybe 6 weeks ago we had penciled in as like pretty solid right behind Logan Webb long term. Trevor, if he hadn't have pitched well on Wednesday, that I was thinking like you might as well take a look at Wisenhunt for a few weeks and see what's going on there. But part of the second half, and they'll clear some guys out here, is going to be figuring out who can actually be in your rotation next season, and like, make a decision one way or the other going into the offseason, because we kind of did that last year where you look at it and we're like, do they need 2 starters? Do they need 3? We were having that conversation. I know even internally the Giants were having that conversation of, do you go get 1 really good one? Do you go get 2? Do you go get 3? They need to run these guys out there every 5 days, and I'll throw Wisenhunt in there as well when they make some trades here and open roster spots. They need to figure out who these guys are. Because I don't think we quite know yet with Landon Roop and Trevor McDonald. And Trevor was excellent on Wednesday, and you look at that and go, even if it's that every few times out, and there's some rough ones here too, you throw that guy at the back of the rotation, you're fine. But there's been some backsliding from those 2 guys, and that's something I think we're going to watch and evaluate in the second half. And with Landon in particular, like, he has at times looked like a pretty solid number 3 starter, but this is 11 straight, and it's not all his fault, but 11 straight games that he has pitched that they have lost, and that kind of stands out.
He's a regular Justin Verlander in that sense.
Okay. Poor Justin.
This series was our welcome back to Elliot Ramos, and he came back, just hit the ground running, scorching hot. He had a home run and a triple on Wednesday, 2 home runs in the series. Great to see him back in the lineup. But we have been discussing a lot, how does this roster kind of work with the crowded outfield once he's back, especially with how Barracoda's been playing. Yep. Ramos comes back immediately playing well. We'll frame this around a mailbag, because why not? Corbin asks, with Barracoda flashing elite power and an elite arm, what happens in the outfield with Bader and Ramos coming back?
Well, I think right now they're going offense. Jung Hoo in center, the 2 guys in the corners. By the way, one of the things I'll add to my list of, like, just tighten it up a little bit. Those guys hit, and then they were back out there defensively, and then the next inning they made all the defensive changes. So did feel like they were an inning behind on that on Wednesday, and that contributed to the 8th inning on Wednesday. But I think what we're seeing is probably what they'll do short term, and this falls in the category of Alex's famous "these things tend to figure themselves out." Was as soon as they kind of had this roster crunch in the outfield, all of a sudden all their infielders got hurt, and Casey goes back to the infield, so he's not playing left anymore. And you can go Barracoda, Lee, Ramos for a few days, and Bader I don't think is close, so they can go with that. I think that's probably what they'll do here, and be proactive about getting their defensive guys in there late in games, or you can run for one of them with Jonah Cox or Drew Gilbert and keep that guy in defensively late in the game. But I'm curious, those guys are a little, it's weird to say because the Giants haven't developed outfielders at all, but they're a little bit like the same thing. Like they look pretty similar. Like, I think guys who are going to have some stretches where you go, that's a quiet 1 for 19 at the plate that he just had. And then also series where you see it's easy power for both of them. And Barracoda's been really impressive. So they have a little bit of time here to figure that out. Long term, especially with Lee in a corner, you don't really have room for both of them unless one of them's on the bench, and there's no DH spot, obviously. But that is short on my list of, like, not too concerned about. Like, Giants have enough problems that if you're like, hey, these 2 guys are in the corner, Jung Hoo Lee's in center, just try to score some runs, and then we'll worry about the defense in the 8th inning. That's totally fine.
What did you think about them playing Barracoda against the matchup?
I liked it. I think he should, I think he should play. This is one of those, like, he's hot. He's who knows where this goes with him. We've seen this a lot. I mean, remember Daniel Suzak's first, like, 3 weeks. Like, it's rookies get hot, and pretty quickly the book gets out, and you go somewhere and all of a sudden they're pitching you different, and all of a sudden we look up and it's like, oh, that's a pretty bad slump for that guy. But let's see what he can do, and let's see what, there is a world where, this will sound crazy today, but there's a world in a few weeks where they look up and people are healthy, and maybe Bader's back, and it doesn't totally make sense for Barracoto to be maybe on a big league bench. Maybe you want him playing every day in AAA and just
Yeah.
continue to develop. But I'd like to see what he can do and see where this hot streak goes. And I think they have 3 righties this weekend at Coors, but run them out there. Run these 2 guys out there. They're both power hitters. This team needs it. Barracoto especially, he hits no doubters, just absolute no doubters. So would love to see him get a shot at Coors. And I think Mike said it during the broadcast, like a little reminder there from him to Tony and the coaching staff that, hey, I can hit righties. It'll be okay. You can throw me out there. So I think they should start him, Ramos, and Lee for 3 days at Coors Field and see where it goes offensively.
I love that. Before we move on from this series, let's give a little shout out to Nolan Arenado. We mentioned him earlier, but he officially clocked a full season against the Giants at this point, 162 games played against the San Francisco Giants. Shout out to a serious Giants killer. Would you say he's put together an all-star season?
I mean, he's borderline put together an MVP season when you throw in the defense in some of the big moments and the walk-offs. But yeah, full season for him against the Giants, 36 homers, 120 runs driven in, 886 OPS, 288 average. So yeah, he's put together a bit of an MVP run against them with just against the Giants alone. Like there are guys who are going to the Hall of Fame and we're going to go, you're welcome.
Yeah.
The Giants helped with that. This blew me away just looking it up. Hank Aaron had 78 home runs off the Giants. It was like twice as many games. So
wow.
But he was like the original. And then Marte he's getting there. He's obviously done it to him this year, but 23 career home runs against him. He is sneaking up on like the Muncy class.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we give him enough credit as a Giants killer. So
when we put together our all Giants killer roster this off season, this lockout season, we'll definitely have to give him his flowers.
Yeah, he's getting up there into Muncie territory very quietly.
Yeah. Well, thankfully there's not a second one of him like there is Max Muncy. That's still melting my brain.
It might be. You never know.
You never know. All right. In Giants news, Matt Chapman goes to the IL with an abdominal strain. This frees up a little space for Casey Schmidt to be back in the infield, adds Christian Koss to the roster. What is the time frame we're looking at for this ab strain?
It looked really bad in the moment, and then he said afterwards he's kind of been dealing with this since April. And Matt, we saw last year, like he's someone who plays through things and will try to be back quick. He does have a second child on the way, so he can take some time with them. I think Tony said yesterday before the game they hope to get him back before the All-Star break. But just you look at the timing of this, like they have 1 week after this one. So I would be shocked. There's no reason for him to come back when eligible. I think you get into the break, you get 4 days off, and really has 2 weeks from tomorrow until the start of the second half, I think. So a little bit of chance to rest up here, even if he feels good in like 8 or 9 days. You can take 12, 13, 14, whatever it is, and get fully back. But Casey Schmidt at third base for the time being. And an interesting side note to that, Ken Rosenthal this morning put out his all-star picks, and I don't think we've talked about kind of the dead zone at third base in the National League, because all these traditional Bregman's had a disappointing year, Machado's had a disappointing year, Chapman's had a disappointing year. So he picked Casey as his backup third baseman. And
all right.
He doesn't have, I think teams come out on Saturday, so not a whole lot of time, but I do wonder if and I think he won't get voted in by the players, but I wonder if this makes it easier to slide him onto the All-Star team, just, being back on the dirt for a few days.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then elsewhere on the infield, Willy Adames missed the whole series. This is obviously the two of the three like high contract, performing veterans. This is two of them, both the guys with no trade clauses. We're heading into trade talks. Our mailbag questions are filled with Matt Chapman, Willie Adamas, and Devers related trade topics. Do these injuries impact that at all for you, or are you kind of still like these guys aren't getting moved?
I never thought Chapman was getting moved. This certainly adds. I think this one adds significantly to it when you hear the guy's been dealing with something since April, and you don't. This is one of those where they didn't give us exact details, but he described it as something that's been tight on him for a long time. Like for a couple of weeks, he hasn't been able to really do much. So, I'd be stunned if he was traded. I would have been anyway, but this certainly adds to like you're on the other side and you go, we don't even like, what if this pops up again in August? So this is Willie, Willie, it's more of a minor thing. He should be back Friday, but it is also, a guy when you're thinking about that much money left on the deal and that many years left on the deal and you go, oh, the lower back's hurting you already. So yeah, I think both those guys, you can add this kind of to the side there with the no trade clauses, but as a factor, why it would be shocking if either one of them moved at the deadline. I always thought it was gonna be hard for any of them to move that much money, but this is just a little thing that it was going to be very difficult already and kind of adds on to that pile.
Looking ahead to All-Star Weekend, Gavin Killeen and Dakota Jordan will represent the Giants in the Futures game. Still, jury's out on who the MLB Giants All-Star representative will be, but we'll obviously be covering that as we get to it.
My guess at this point it's going to be Arias. Like it's, he's kind of separated himself from the pack. But yeah, these two guys, Gavin, obviously the high floor, completely different players. Gavin, kind of the high floor, middle infielder. Mm-hmm. Dakota is, everyone in Lotus said this to me yesterday. He's Bo Jackson. Like, it's just, you got to figure it out. He just strikes out a lot. Like, he strikes out, I think, 30% of the time this year. So, incredible tools. They're hoping he hits, even if he hits even half of his ceiling, he's a good big leaguer. But completely different type of guys. I don't know if they still have. Do they have a home run derby in the Futures game? I don't. Futures game's always at weird times, so it just goes up. But his batting practice will be fun to watch no matter what. And Gavin is, we're watching him. I think we're on the same watch with Johnny Level. Like, those two guys are in high A. Which one of them gets up here first? And most likely Gavin will be the first one of all their middle infielders to get up here.
Yeah, I mean, as we talk about how this season has gone and how basically the silver lining and focus needs to be the young talent and making sure this big league roster is best equipped to fit them in and cultivate them when the time comes. These Futures games maybe are more exciting than ever. This is also with the draft coming up and just all kinds of ways to improve the future of this organization, because while the present may look grim, maybe the future looks better.
It's July 12th. I believe it's at like 9 a.m., but some weird time, but we'll be watching.
We'll be watching. All right. Before we get to mailbag questions and Giants at Rockies, let's take a look around the league to remember some guys and hit on some stories that are happening around baseball. First, remembering some guys, John Brebbia, DFA'd by Rockies right before the Giants get a chance to look at him. Do you think this is it for our guy, Brebs?
He's kind of been hanging around the last couple years. He got rocked his third outing for them. And they robbed us of a repeat of, was it like 2 years ago when he was telling stories in the outfield and there was like 12 relievers around him just in a trance. So they robbed us of that. But I think John had such a long journey to the big leagues. I feel like this is you were going to have to rip this jersey off of me situation. Yeah. Maybe they'll add him back before next week's series so we can see him at Oracle.
It would be really interesting when he is done to see if he does anything, if he becomes like a TikTok personality or just like vanishes into the ether and is never heard of again, because he's got such a good presence for content and for television and for podcasting. But I don't know that he hit a level where he'd have an audience.
He would be tremendous, and I would love for him to sit next to us on pre and post. My guess, having gotten to know him a little bit, he is going to disappear.
Yeah.
And he had some interest that I think he had some off-field interest that he'll focus on that. But really interesting guy.
Yeah. Phillies call up Lou Trevino. Another remembering of some guys. And how about this one, Alex? Farhan Zaidi. You put this note in here. Once again, I feel like he's been tied to football. He's been tied to basketball. Obviously, baseball ties. What do we have for him?
I put this in here because obviously you missed this the last 4 days, but LeBron is dominating all of the news.
LeBron says, you signed my son and I am done. Thank you.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, a lot of Lakers smoke. The Lakers were very busy on Wednesday, kind of remade their whole roster in an interesting way. I just put this in here because I don't think most people know, but he's pretty involved with that side of the Dodgers business and their ownership group and the Lakers. And from what I've heard, the Lakers and the Sparks. And so I just watching that out of the corner of our eye. If whatever happens with the Lakers down the line, I think he's relatively involved from what I've heard there. So that's what he's up to.
Yeah. Will be interesting to follow that LeBron story. I know they're talking about putting together the Golden State Warriors, and I can't fathom LeBron on the Warriors.
Oh, I think we're gonna have to fathom it.
It's all but done. Oh, that is insane.
It'd be a weird one. Maybe we'll get him on Giants Talk.
There we go. Yeah, we can. As we get closer to that being a reality, we can put together what is the comp for that.
I was trying to think about that the other day, and I guess a little bit like the 2021 Giants, just but not really, because these are much bigger stars than who they were, and that team also was so built around the edges. But
I was thinking more from the perspective of this is a guy who, on a variety of teams, was all but the Warriors' largest rival for so long. Is this Kershaw coming to the Giants? Obviously, he's different because he played his whole career with just the Dodgers. But is there a guy that has essentially been like a Giants killer or Giants rival a superstar who would be that comp?
I think probably the closest comp would be like a Kershaw. Because we're talking about it we won't do bad radio LeBron versus MJ, but we're talking about one or two all time. So you can't even say Max Muncy come over. It's just not comparable.
Exactly.
This is Kershaw. This is if Buster kept playing after 2021 and Kershaw comes over.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you have Bumgarner, Kershaw, Buster sharing a locker room.
Yeah, Bum coming back would be like the Anthony Davis or Klay Thompson if he ends up here or whatever. But weird one.
Fascinating. Farhan, I don't know what your hand is in this. I guess you're stuck holding the bag and holding Bronny Jr. down there. But I know, Alex, you're a big NBA podcast talk guy, so keep me filled in.
I will keep you filled in. My other thought was that this seems like the actual memory-making business. And the Giants are going to be wiped off the mat in terms of memory-making, because that is true memory-making they're not going to win a title. But if that happens, that's true memory-making, and the Giants are just I guess we're going to rebuild our bullpen in the offseason.
Hey, but, do we get LeBron at some Giants games, sitting there in that front corner seat by the dugout?
Yeah, get Larry's seats right there for one game. So, yeah, that'd be fun.
All right. Looking around the league, this isn't really remembering some guys, Alex, but I wanted to touch on it. Have you been following the Josh Naylor, Austin Hedges story at all?
One of those things that flashed across my timeline, and I was like, I don't have time to dig into this. And so, not really.
It just seems like an all-time two guys who used to play together and everyone assumed were pretty good friends turn out to hate each other. What happened was, I think Naylor kind of leaned in to getting hit by a pitch, chirped at the catcher, Austin Hedges, his former teammate on two different teams, I believe. And Hedges got caught, not on hot mic as much as hot lip read, saying stuff like, nobody likes you, none of your teammates like you, which is just wild, level of personal disdain for that kind of situation.
For the kids listening, if you ever just want to cut to the core of somebody, that's just a
Oh yeah.
quick, hey, nobody likes you, is just a real, just cut right into it.
Yeah, it gets too real.
It's too real right away.
Yeah, it kind of made me think about the Barry Bonds, Jeff Kent days and like what the content around that would be like if it had happened in 2026 instead of 2003 or
Oh
whatever.
man, yeah, that was a weird one. I gotta admit, I get the nailers confused for each other sometimes.
That's fair. I do too.
It's too similar.
Yeah. Then also around the league, July 1st marked annual celebration of Bobby Bonilla Day. This used to be such a fun thing. I think Bobby Bonilla is cashing $1+ million checks for another almost 10 years. But I was wondering, does the abuse of the deferred contract at this point now kill the joy of Bobby Bonilla Day?
I think so. I also think contracts have gotten so big that like this used to be a big deal. Now you look at it and go, that's like less than what the Giants are paying Sam Henches. So it's basically the league minimum at this point.
Yeah. Once upon a time, one of the coolest things in baseball, one of the funniest stories to follow, but I think it did kind of lose its charm.
Yeah.
All right. We have mailbag questions, Alex, but first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini Sleep World. Mancini Sleep World offers high-quality mattresses for ultimate comfort and support, so you wake up energized and refreshed every morning. Mancini's has been helping people sleep better for over 50 years. They've built a reputation for top-quality mattresses and exceptional customer service. Stop by or visit online to see what's currently available. Okay, we have a variety of mailbag questions from listeners. I think we put some trade-heavy questions in here as we are now in July, making our way towards the deadline. As always, if you're listening and you have questions for Giants Talk, go ahead and send them wherever you can find Alex or myself on social media. Yeah.
I think we did this one of the previous years, but as the deadline approaches, like let's have some fun. People can send actual trade proposals and we'll tell you why you're crazy, why it's never going to happen. But that'd be a fun one to do in July at some point.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Our first one here is from Patrick. Patrick says Bryce Eldridge has the third most walks on the team, despite having only half as many plate appearances as most of the starters. I didn't realize walks would be such a big part of his game, and it's an important part of his 900 OPS. What makes him good at walking, and can we expect he'll be a high walk guy throughout his career? This one, I would love to hear your take on, because I remember when the call-up discussion was happening, he was hitting, but he was also striking out at a clip that didn't seem like it'd be big league sustainable, and it seems like his eye has wildly improved.
Yeah, I think with Bryce, he has the last couple of years when he was up here last year and then AAA this year, and especially, last year his walk rate in a brief stint in the big leagues was very high. Just I'll take total walks out of it. Just walk rate, he leads the team, and him and Matt Chapman are the only guys in double digits. In AAA this year, it was very high. It was 14.6. Right now, it's 12.5. What has changed with him is he's not striking out as much, and so you have the best of both. I mean, he still strikes out a fair amount, but for a guy who has power and has shown contact ability, I think one of the most encouraging things about his profile, and one of the reasons I'm just all in, is he does have a good eye, and like it's not quite Brandon Belt, Lamont Wade Jr., but I think you can see it getting there. And that's really exciting because I've talked to some people about him recently who saw both, and they kind of go like, there's a lot of Belt in there. Not going to be as good a defender, but is going to have a lot more power or show a lot more power in games. And then the walk rate and also has hit for some average at times here. So that's really exciting. It's part of the profile. And one thing I'll add to this is he has been excellent. He's been the best on the team, one of the best in baseball at challenging pitches, and kind of gives you an idea too of where he is in the strike zone.
Also, the Belt comparisons are just so spot on for me, because when he wears those high socks out there in some games, I'm like, is that Brand? Oh no, it's Bryce.
And Brandon was the baby giraffe.
He is like newborn giraffe.
And just purely on height alone.
Yep. Put him out there in the outfield just for one game so we can get that baby giraffe.
Yeah, there's a lot of comparisons, but I think it is really encouraging the way he's handled the strike zone.
Yeah. Brian says, given the news that the Giants are open to trading Devers, Chapman, and Willie, I have to wonder what they could expect in return. They're clearly desperate for pitching help, but no teams who are in contention are going to offload any quality pitchers for those three players. Seems like if the Giants could dump just those three contracts, it would allow Schmidt and Eldridge and others from the minors to get on the field for more playing time, and that would be a win, whatever, or regardless of what players they get back. I think that's pretty spot on, that if they are moving Devers, Chapman, and or Adames, it would be to free up the space and clear the contracts. Maybe Devers you can get something for.
I actually think I think Devers is the one where it would be purely a salary.
Really?
Like, because you're talking how much of that, I think it's 210 after this season. Are you
Devers to me just has that, like, I don't know, more of there's a possibility that actual Rafael Devers is lurking under the surface somewhere.
It's also so much money that at some point you start negotiating and you're like, are we taking on 60 million of this, 70, 80? And maybe you take on more of it and get an actual prospect back. But I think I'll go back to a conversation we had like a month ago when we were discussing all this. You look at the Correa deal last year where they took on, I think, like 40, 45 million. They got a complete nobody back. I don't think he's even playing baseball anymore. Mm-hmm. So these salary dump deals, like, these are true salary dumps. You're not, this isn't the NBA where you can throw a couple first round picks on there and make it look better. Like, this is going to be a true salary dump if these deals happen. Chapman's the one who I think would have had a little bit more value to teams before he got hurt. But again, I kind of don't think that's happening.
Yeah. Colin says, I'm starting to feel like the Devers trade is the Paul George trade for the Clippers, a trade that at the time everyone agreed they had to make to get Kawhi Leonard, but now years later has turned out horribly. Bad or good comparison?
This is excellent.
Spot on.
I thought it was spot on and ran it by some basketball people in the studio. They thought it was spot on as well. This is excellent. Like, this is so true. Such a good comparison. I think everyone agreed at the time it had to do it, and then you look up and the MVP's on Oklahoma City, and similar here, everyone agreed you have to do it, and you look up and you're in this situation. So,
and isn't that one of those trades where, like, the tendrils continued, like, guys involved continued moving to other teams, and the ramifications just kept building? And as we see Harrison with another team, as we see Tibbs with the Dodgers, it's just like, exactly. The ripples keep happening.
I think the Clippers, I think the draft picks from that trade, just finished or are just about to finish, or this is
they're just vesting.
That there's going to be some tail to this too, because Milwaukee's not going to pay Kyle Harrison down the line. So there's another trade coming down the line where Milwaukee trades him, and we'll see what happens with Tibbs, and if he's in a deal with the Dodgers, and we'll see what happens with Devers.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. Ren asks, what's the likelihood the Giants could package an attractive rental piece, Ray or Arias, with one of the long-term contract players they're open to shifting at the deadline as a way to dodge part of the contract they'd otherwise have to eat in order to move on from Devers, Adames, or Chapman? For example, Ray plus Adames to the Braves, given their starting pitcher injury and concerns and lack of shortstop certainty. Would a rental player generate a sufficient discount or mean the Giants could move on from a big-name contract without having to eat any money? At this point, the discount, maybe $30 million, feels more attractive than a 4A prospect. I don't know. That last part, and maybe just the whole premise of this, I disagree with. And that's because I spend more money. It's not my money, probably, but I would like a prospect more than getting out from under one of these deals.
Yeah. This is a good idea. And it would help especially if you're dealing with someone this year and you're like, you want Luis Arias in the postseason, hitting second in your lineup? Well, guess what? Help us out a little bit here.
There's a rider to that one.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be the big ones. I mean, it could be hey, we're throwing Adrian Hauser into this, we're throwing Harrison Bader into this Arias deal. Like, there's two guys who have contracts beyond this year. I'll say two things about it. One, I think the Giants need to be collecting talent above all, especially pitching talent. So you don't want to take away from what they can potentially get. And two, I agree with you. Like, you're the San Francisco Giants. You're not the Tampa Bay Rays. And this is a conversation we've had about eating money as well. Like, at some point you just go like, how much money are you going to eat to get rid of this guy? Like, they should not be worried about the. I know everybody is, but they should not be as worried about the money aspect of this. And if they did something to just purely dump salaries and not get anything back and waste an opportunity with the way Arias is playing, with the way Robbie's pitching recently to actually get some talent back, that would be disappointing.
Exactly. They have two fantastic chips for this deadline. And if they spent that to just get some financial security and essentially bail themselves out from bad deals, I would be rather annoyed.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the concept of like, can you package Mally and Arias, and it's not as much of a, Mally's going to be owed, I don't know, 3-4 million the rest of the way. So it's not as big a deal, but
yeah, that's just 4 Bobby Bonilla years.
Yeah. But I think they need to take advantage here and get some pitching talent back.
Yeah. Brett says, obviously a lot of trade talk around the big names and expiring contracts, but what about Elliot Ramos? Right-handed hitter with 3 years of arbitration. He feels like the 4th best guy at what he excels at. So shouldn't be someone they look to move for real prospect capital.
A good question. An interesting one. I think his injury kind of put him off the radar, but I do think you will probably see, just because of the nature of these things, his name pop up over the next few weeks. And there are teams, like I think a team we've talked about as being potentially a good fit with the Giants, like Philadelphia, that type of team. You look at it and go, yeah, they could probably use the outfield help. So
yeah.
There are a lot of teams that could use a right-handed bat. I do think his name will probably be in the mix. And that, again, why I think, this is an interesting time, because I think at some point you do have to just kind of mix some of these guys in, like a Barracoto, and go, could Barracoto give you 80% of what you were expecting from Elliott, 90%?
Yeah.
Because only one of them can play left field. And I do think the Giants were right that Jung-Hoo Lee has to play right field ultimately, and you need better defense and center to be competitive. So that's something I think we're going to be watching over. I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing his name pop up in the next few weeks, especially if he hits this way.
Yeah, I mean, he hit the ground running coming back. They're heading to Coors Field. I definitely would kind of mentally, he's one of those guys I would be mentally tracking his stats throughout the month to be like, is he playing himself into trade discussions?
Yeah. And, it is one area where Bo Davidson's had a very good month in Double-A. Parks Harbor's basically only played outfield for the last month. So there are some guys where, even if it's not Barracoto, even if it's not Jonah Cox, there are some guys who, going into next year, you could imagine filling that spot if you do have to trade an Elliott.
Yeah. Kevin asks, as hard as it would be to offload the Devers or Adames contracts, what if one of them was bundled with Logan Webb? Are there teams that would be interested in that package?
Same answer.
Yeah. Like, if you're going to do the heartbreaking move to trade the Giants' fan favorite Northern Californian ace, just doing so to get out from under the Devers money?
Yeah.
No, thank you. Yeah, I want a return that knocks my socks off.
It's probably the easiest way to get out from this money. And I would say whatever level of pissed off people would not be enough. Like, absolutely not.
Yes.
So you're the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah.
You can afford to have some.
At that point, you'd have given up Kyle Harrison and Logan Webb as part of Rafael Devers' tenure on this team.
Yeah. At that point, you just, that's
back up shop.
That's right. Look, we lived through Aaron Rowan's contract. We lived through Barry Zito's contract. You can have a couple bad contracts on this team. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Caleb says this team just feels cursed. Any chance you or anyone can try to cleanse the vibes at Oracle Park, a la Peyton Manning and Jeff Daniels with the Lions in 2022? Yeah, I think this would be a lot easier if we could tie this to like a specific curse like that was. Like if we could pin this on, this is the curse of XYZ. We need to get Hunter Pence and some kind of digital crew in here to film some content. I don't know, saging Oracle Park, doing some sort of ritual. Sounds great. I'm in.
what is it, like smudging, where you do the smoke thing or whatever?
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know what Peyton Manning did. I do know Tony knows him pretty well, so if they need to redo that, they can
I
do
have it
that.
up right here. This was the curse of Bobby Lane, and they dumped former quarterback Bobby Lane's helmet into a bathtub of whiskey while chanting a mystical incantation.
I've heard worse ideas to improve the San
Honestly,
Francisco.
Alex,
Yeah.
that sounds like a decent Saturday if you just want to like do something you and me.
That sounds fun. I think the answer here is it's been 10 years. Bring Matt Duffy back and have Matt Duffy Day at the ballpark. See if maybe that's what's hanging over this.
Yeah.
Curse of Skeeter.
Curse of Skeeter, make it happen.
Still there. We thought 21 got rid of it, but it's still there.
All right, one more from Magic. Is the green light still a thing with managers and players? Or have we moved on from that and players can swing at 3-0 without worrying about getting a talking to from the manager? I'm all about tradition in baseball, but the unwritten 3-0 rule always seemed so weird to me.
Yeah, I think one thing we've noticed over the years, and this was really like a Donnie Ecker, Justin Veely type thing, and I think this staff feels the same way, is like do damage. And, those are opportunities sometimes to hunt a pitch and do damage. So that certainly has gone away a little bit. I asked about this. They do still have generally like a pretty simple take sign, pretty simple swing away sign. But yeah, I mean, I think guys for the most part now can do what they want. There are still times where they'll tell a guy to take, and I think there's certainly been times where we've watched like a reliever on the other side and go, if you just stand there, you're going to walk the next three guys.
Or some of those times where you do see a 3-0 count and they're taking all the way, and then it just ends up being exactly what you wanted to swing on.
Yeah. I think the more interesting one to me is stealing bases. And I asked about why Jung Hoo was all of a sudden stealing a bunch of bases. And they basically were like, well, he had the green light, but he wasn't going. So we changed it to like, here's the steal sign, here's not the steal. So it's, there are guys with the green light and he wasn't, for whatever reason, wasn't aggressive with it. So now they're being a little bit more targeted and like, steal. Go.
Get out there. You have a quota to hit.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Those are our mailbag questions for the day. Thanks to everyone who sent them. And once again, feel free to hit me and Alex with some questions or trade proposals, trade like goals. You have your eye on a player the Giants should try to get. That'd be great. You have a team that'd be a good fit for one of the Giants players they're trying to move. Let us know. I'm sure we'll be ramping up the trade contact as the stove heats up.
We will.
Alex, Giants are heading to Colorado to play the Rockies at Coors Field, continuing this matchup against what should be the basement teams of the NL West. Is this a rivalry game now? The bottom of the bucket series?
They're 2.5 games apart, so technically
they're
a 3-game series.
From being last.
Yeah, or build some distance here, so you don't have to worry about them.
Come on. All right. Who do we have on the mound at Coors Field? Who gets the honor of pitching at altitude?
It is Logan Webb versus Ryan Feltner, Robbie Ray versus Tomoyuki Sagano, and Tyler Malley versus Tanner Gordon. That Rockies rotation is as bad as you think, but I don't think any of that really matters. Brandon Pfaadt came back from the minors and wasn't supposed to be stretched out and has had a horrible year, and he looked like
an ace.
Yeah, Cy Young. So battle for 4th, 5th place in the National League West.
Yeah, whenever the Giants go to Coors, it's like, all right, here's the chance for some guys to pad their stats. Here's the chance for the offense to come back. Here's the chance. But I'm mostly looking at this like, man, how did 3 of the strongest Giants pitchers draw this short straw?
Yeah. Well, pad those stats. Get back.
Pad those stats.
Get feeling offensively.
Yes. As we continue to give some tips for out-of-town fans who may be visiting, I did some research on Coors Field. Chatter among Rockies fans says the best thing to order at the ballpark is the chicken tenders.
Yes. Excellent chicken tenders. Huge. Fat. Good fries. Excellent condiment stations.
Yeah.
They're on top of it.
I have not been to Coors Field since my dad was the Rockies' inaugural broadcaster in their first year.
4?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought about going on this trip. Maybe next year I'll do a Coors trip.
All right. Going back.
Yeah. Once again, just would be fascinating to see what the version of me looks like who stayed a Rockies fan and grew up in Denver instead of the Bay Area.
Good chicken tender situation. Before we go, because we've been long here, I do want to say we will not have an emergency LeBron talk, but no matter what happens, I think Dubs Talk will do it. So if you want your NBA stuff, Bonnie Poole, Dalton Johnson, Monte, those are your people.